By the time this video is released, y'all will have seen episode 2 of season 2 of The Owl House, Escaping Expulsion, so there's no need for me to put a disclaimer on this and say you shouldn't watch this unless you've already seen that episode. So here we go. Escaping Expulsion, Luz and Amity. Let's do this. This is a fantastic episode. The B-plot with Lilith and Ida learning glyphs is one of the best B-plots in the entire show. It's this great mix of absurd, hilarious, and very poignant and emotional. It really plays to a lot of the depths in the Clawthorne sisters' characters. Ida, always defiant of authority to a fault. Lilith trying her best to conform, both because she's always been the good student in terms of being very focused and studious, and because she is trying to earn herself back in the good graces of Ida and also get into the good graces of Luz. Because of her misguided actions in the end of season 1 that led to her becoming an outright antagonist to Luz and Ida. Combined with what we already saw in Separate Tides, the B-plot in Escaping Expulsion provides a lot of evidence that the show has gotten significantly better at synthesizing together two different stories. My favorite part of this B-plot, though, has to be Lilith presenting Luz with this ice sculpture of Luz as this wise and sage scholar, and Lilith just basically worshipping her. Lilith being so obsequious toward this dorky 14-year-old is extremely funny to me. But my favorite parts of the episode have to come from the other half, which involves Luz and Amity. There are two significant developments in this half of the episode. The first is that the relationship between Luz and Amity is becoming more intimate and romantically tinged. The attraction between them is clearly mutual, there is no doubting that, and Amity is not shy about her feelings, as demonstrated when she shouts, "Stay away from my Luz," while trying to save Luz. It is a mysterious, heroic display of power and elegance that causes Luz to blush, and probably to realize that she has been infatuated with Amity for a while now. But on the other side, we see both Luz and Amity earn the ill will of Amity's mother, Odalia Blight. Odalia is not someone who can be dismissed. She's not someone who can be ignored. The episode demonstrates that pretty clearly. When she believes that Amity is losing her focus because she cares too much about her friends at Hexside, Odalia has those friends expelled from the school. Meaning not just Luz, but also Gus and Willow. Most likely she enjoyed expelling Willow, considering the history between Amity and Willow dating back from when they were very small. But this is not enough for Odalia. By the end of the episode, she has attempted to kill Luz under false pretenses. This demonstrates the extent to which Odalia is willing to go. There have been a lot of comparisons between the Blights and the Northwests in Gravity Falls, and to a certain extent, this comparison is reasonable, considering that they are both very rich and snobbish families who are resented by the protagonist and who have a child who is kinder and more generous, but who struggles to escape the shackles her family uses to control her. But the Northwest are just greedy elites. They're dangerous in that they have no morals, but the worst they can do is kick you out of their party in their fancy mansion on the top of the hill that was built with the blood and sweat of the working class. The Blights are weapons manufacturers. Emperor Balos takes them seriously enough that he feels the need to buy up all their abomination soldiers just so they can't be used by anyone else. He wants to make sure no one else can have an army that could challenge his own authority as the emperor of this land. That even Emperor Balos takes these people seriously and feels the need to deal with them directly really demonstrates how powerful the Blights are. The Northwests are powerful in the context of the small town atmosphere of Gravity Falls. The Blights are just powerful, period, in this world. They are a completely different category of people, and they have the capacity to do a lot worse than just throw a couple of kids out of a magic school. Amity knows this, which is why she has such a hard time breaking free from her parents' grasp. It is true that if Amity wanted to leave her parents, she could probably come live with Luz and Ida in the Owl House, and that's probably a comfort to her, but Amity's smart enough to know that if she did do this, it would incur the wrath of Odalia, not just on her, but on the person she cares the most about in the world, Luz. Her Luz. Amity doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to do anything that would hurt Luz. So, it might seem better to her that they should try and make a deal with Odalia instead of making her their enemy. Odalia is cruel, I don't think anyone is going to dispute that, but Alador seems more accepting, and he also seems capable of persuading his wife, as we see at the end of Escaping Expulsion, this episode. But even if they do form an alliance, that alliance would be necessarily fraught. Luz is more than reasonably going to have a few doubts and anxieties about allying with the person who tried to kill her, the person who has been controlling Amity's life and ruining Amity's friendship since Amity was very small. Odalia, for her side, is likely to be so consumed with the idea of maintaining absolute control over her daughter that she is not going to happily allow other people, such as Luz, to exert any sort of influence on Amity. Amity has changed due to influences that we, the audience, consider good, but Odalia considers corrosive. And it is not like Amity is particularly subtle about this. At the end of Escaping Expulsion, she outright demands that Odalia let her friends back into Hexide. And she frames this in the context of these friends helping form her idea of the kind of person she wants to be, the kind of person she feels that she should be, and that she feels that she could be if she just escaped the control of Odalia. For Odalia, this refusal of Odalia's control and this accepting of the influences of other people might as well be a kick in the face. And Odalia's resentment is only going to increase drastically once she realizes the extent and the depth of Luz and Amity's relationship. If Luz and Amity become closer, even more so than they already are, with one of them perhaps confessing their feelings for the other in an upcoming episode, that would be absolutely fantastic news for the both of them. They are great influences on each other. They really bring out the best in each other. Luz encourages Amity to be more confident and more self-assured and more willing to exert her own will and her own desires and her own convictions instead of simply bowing to the will of her parents. While Amity has the opposite effect on Luz, helping Luz to be more considerate and more thoughtful and more philosophical and more willing to see the world from a wide-angle lens instead of just charging straight into any situation just because the impulse strikes her to do so. It would not, however, be beneficial to Odalia, as Amity would, even more than she already has, start caring more about what Luz thinks than what Odalia wants her to do and be. And this would be a disaster for Odalia. What I find interesting about this episode, though, is how we do not see Odalia single out Luz as the one who has been influencing Amity and causing Amity to be less obedient. When the picture falls out of Amity's sleeve, Odalia sees it and blames all of Amity's friends, so she has them all expelled. She doesn't have any special punishment for Luz, although we, the audience, know that if there is any one person who is causing Amity to change, it is Luz. Now, by the end of Escaping Expulsion, Odalia probably has a better understanding of the depth of Amity's connection to Luz, considering that they risk their lives to save each other, but she likely underestimates still the intensity of their feelings. I doubt she understands that these feelings are romantic, although Amity straight out saying "my Luz" would clarify the nature of those feelings to anyone who is looking. We'll see if Odalia Blight was in fact looking. Whether she was even thinking about the possibility that this could be a romantic connection. Based on what we see in this episode, Odalia is as impulsive as she is manipulative. This is not good news for Luz. I highly doubt Odalia is going to be willing to hurt Amity, but she has already proven that she is willing to hurt Luz. She literally tried to kill Luz in this episode. I have to emphasize that because it shouldn't be ignored. Whatever disdain Odalia has toward Luz at this point is probably more general, but it will become a lot more personal and specific when she realizes that Amity's in love with Luz. That it's not just Amity's friends in general who are exerting this influence on her, it's Luz specifically. I hope Odalia isn't just a one-note villain or this cackling baddie. I hope there are more layers to her than we have hitherto seen, but she is definitely antagonistic toward Luz, and is probably going to become even more so as the show progresses. The closer Luz and Amity become, the more they know that the other person will be there for them, and supportive of them, and there to help them. But also, the closer they become, the more they know that they are putting themselves in the path of Odalia's wrath. And I wonder to what extent this weighs on Amity's consciousness. She knows that the closer she becomes to Luz, the more she puts Luz in harm's way, and causes her parents to see Luz as an antagonist. Amity has already proven that she is not personally afraid of her mother, but is she afraid of what her mother could do to Luz? Yes, absolutely. She's already proven that she is. That's why she didn't want Luz fighting her battles for her. As Odalia grows to understand the true nature of Amity's feelings for Luz, she will become even more adamant and reckless about trying to separate the two. What I'm about to say probably will sound extremely corny, but I genuinely believe that the greatest obstacle to manipulation and control is love and passion. Amity has become a person who is willing to do almost anything for Luz, and because of that, Odalia is going to have a much more difficult time controlling Amity's behavior in the future. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Owl House. It's getting really interesting and really thoughtful, and I can't see where Terrace and her team will end up taking these characters going forward. I'm really excited to find out. And I want to know more about the Blights. They are definitely villains, or at least Odalia is, but they're not simplistic ones. and I wonder how they will play into the antagonism between Amity, Luz, Ida, and our gang there, and the Emperor. Where will they fit in? Who knows? So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon, I promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.